NAACP here in Galveston. This is not about the NAACP. This is about the Galveston community coming together to resolve issues that need to be resolved. At this time, I'm going to ask all of our public officials to please stand. I'd like to acknowledge all of our public officials. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your support. Again, as I stated before, tonight, the whole reason that we're here is to make sure that we as a community come together to resolve the issues that are at hand. We can only do that if we come together as a united front. We appreciate Chief Hale for wanting the opportunity to speak to the community. And I will say, he has been a great friend to many of us. Throughout different situations that have happened, he has kept close communication with the community, and we appreciate that for all that you do. He answers phone calls, he answers texts, no matter what time it may be, and so we do appreciate that. I'd like to set some ground norms here tonight. The first thing is that if you have a question, we're going to ask you to raise your hand and we will bring the mic to you. We ask you that you limit your questions to one question to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions. If you choose not to ask questions, but you do have some concerns, there's paper at the back on the table that you're free to write your questions down, and the team will be here after the meeting to talk with you on an individual basis if that's what you would like. So at this time, I'm going to bring forth our Chief of Police for the City of Galveston, Chief Hale.
Good evening. First of all, I tried writing out a bunch of prepared statements, etc., but y'all know me. I've spoke at probably most of the churches in this room. I've spoke at many events, and that's just not who I am as a man, as a chief, and the things that we do. And so first let me say to the media, this is an opportunity for my community, the community I live in, that if they want a pound of flesh, that flesh comes from me, not my guys. If you want to vilify folks, then let's start where it begins. It starts with leadership. Every professional in this business would say, this is a bad idea this early, Chief. Well, what I'm telling you is, when the cameras are gone, I got to live here with you, and I want you to have the opportunity to talk to me. And so I'd like the media to also respect that. And so, I've looked at this in many, many ways. Many, many ways. Do you know what the hardest job of a police chief is? Anybody know? Besides beating the speed of Facebook? Because I can't beat it, I tell you. It ain't gonna happen. The toughest job for a police chief is having the courage to discern mistakes from missteps from misconduct. And that's what processes are for. Is this a mistake? Is this a misstep? Or is this misconduct? That's what any review process is about. Because the only way to get better is to determine that. Is it a mistake of the heart or of the mind? I got those backwards, didn't I? The heart or the mind. We got to know those things. And so there's a lot of things that occurred that you are trying to wrap your heads around from a still picture or two still pictures or comparisons of pictures. And at the end of the day, I've got still pictures, and of course I've got body cam that at some point I'm sure may be released. I don't know what the attorneys, et cetera, say, but at the end of the day, but I also know what I have in these officers in their hearts. I think there's some things you got to understand about what we call the mounted unit, first of all, and then we'll talk a little bit about the incident, and then I'll hear you out. I promise you that. I'll hear you out. But understand that these individuals technically were not a unit. They have bought their own gear, their own horses, their own feed, and we have asked them, and yes, we pay them when they're on duty, but we have asked them to bring their property to help work for us at times, at special events, etc. I was recently asked, hey, Chief, can we have more visibility from horses? And what does that look like? And how many? And all those things. And they came to me with several proposals. And I finally said, okay, after Mardi Gras, we can start increasing the mounted unit, but we got to do it right. In those discussions, I had the foresight to say, but they ain't getting on a horse until they've been to some formalized training. And we did that. They took a 40-hour course, and they were trained. What appears to me in this incident is they reverted to that training and used the only tool they knew how as new riders, as new mounted officers, and as a unit that's in the process of standing up. In fact, in the contract negotiations, we're in the middle of creating this and formalizing our position with these folks so that we can have these things in place. So where did Chief Hale screw up? While I had the foresight to say, hey, they're not getting on a horse before they're trained, I didn't have the foresight to say, let's make sure I got all the proper controls in place. Which is why I had to change something before we were even up and running good. And that's on me. I should have had the foresight to say, hey, where's all this other stuff? Does that make an excuse for the photo we all saw? Absolutely not. I'm just telling you the fact, because I try to deal in fact. Do you think I wasn't concerned when I first saw the photo? Do you guys really believe that? Knowing where I come from and what I've been through. But the difference between me and many others, rather than jump to what I think I may have saw, I immediately began fact-finding. I called other mounted experts. Not my guys. I need their opinion too, but I need outside sources to tell me, is this a valid trained technique? Absolutely. That's what I needed. And then we began to decide what's best practice. And that's what we have to review and make sure we have in place is, and because something works, does that mean Galveston has to do it? Absolutely not. We have opportunities to do what works for this island. And that's why I have you. That's why I know this community better than any other community, works together, communicates, talks, calls me, talks to me, invites me, and I do the same with you. And so as a community, I want to make sure we all work together to make sure we work in the best interest of the city of Galveston, Galveston Island, and the Galveston Police Department. Bad terminology, and I know it, but cart before the horse is classic, right? And so that's what we have to do. And so I know you're upset. I know. It's not going to change. I'm not going to resolve that here tonight, but I can certainly give you the opportunity to voice your frustrations to me, to understand the position we're coming from. I can't talk, you know, if this had been about a motorcycle, y'all seen me on my motorcycle, right? If this had been something about a motorcycle, I could have answered a whole bunch of those questions for you easily, because I know about riding a motorcycle. I've never been a mounted officer. So I didn't even know what questions to ask until it was time to ask the questions. And that's why we're here. You know, we're all from Texas, folks. And so the great football team of the Dallas Cowboys, right? Look, look, you know, professional athletes have told me for years that when they win a game, they typically get an extra day off. When they lose a game, they have film day. Why? Because we learn more from our failures and mistakes than we ever do from our successes. Unfortunately, this is my game tape. And I have to learn from it. My agency has to learn from it. And I commit to you that we will do better. We will do better on the front end of any policies we create. We will do better as our policies evolve and we find better ways to do things. We will do better as an administration in ensuring that we have the proper tools, equipment, policies, and controls in place for us to police this island in the image we want to be seen in. That's my commitment to you. Is that fair? When I said I know the heart of these officers, I mean, you guys got to understand, one of these officers was just featured in the paper not long ago for handing out blankets in the wintertime to homeless. That's what's in his heart. That was not a Chief Held initiative. I can't even take credit. Do you think I wish I could? He did that on his own, and sometimes out of his own pocket. People in this community have seen him feed homeless and transits in the downtown area. That's what's in his heart. I know what the still picture shows. I get it. But we have to look at totality of circumstances and address the totality of the circumstance, not the still shot. And I know I'm not going to change all your hearts. I get that. All I want you to do, whether we agree to disagree or not, is understand. Is understand. Because if we don't listen, then we can't understand. If I don't understand what you're feeling, then I can't address it. If you don't understand us, then all you can be is angry. And so I can't eliminate the anger, but hopefully we can reduce some of the anger, some of the emotion, and get to the root so that we can do better in all that we do, not just in riding horses, in all that we do. I'll take comments at this time.
Remember, one at a time, raise your hand and I'll bring the mic so you can speak directly into the microphone.
Good evening, Chief. I think
Yes,
that
ma'am.
the way that you handled and answered the question right away was very impressive to me. But I want to ask you if diversity training will be a part of the training that your police officers are going to be receiving. Thank you.
It is, it should, and always will be, absolutely.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
You know how I feel about you.
Understood.
I've already told you a long time ago that you're a very handsome man.
I was before this greater day, you know.
I want to make one thing clear coming from a senior citizen as myself, and I live in this neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am.
I love police officers because I understand the job that they do. I can't hate you one day, and then the next day when I need you, I'm going to call you to come and help me out. So I want to know, we've got to have that one-on-one relationship. One of the jobs I had, it's not about the color. I've had white police officers stand up for me at a time when somebody was rude to me, and they took my back without me even saying anything. It's called respect.
Yes, ma'am.
And we've got to learn how to respect each other. I got to treat you the way I want to be treated. So the only question I have is, when you went to your officers or went to the office, I just want to know, how did they feel about the incident? Did they feel like they were right? Or do you know how they felt about the incident because I love Galveston. And as many tourists as we have that come in Galveston, you got people passing by. When they see a picture, they may not understand and they'll take it outside of Galveston. And then, like you said, it's an incident, but we're going to move on from here. So the educating, we all can stand some education. So I understand that, but that's my question. How do they feel?
You know, a wise man told me, in fact, earlier today, he said, reality is reality. Perception is perception. But your perception is your reality, right? And so I say that to say, it's my understanding that these officers, and until we have an opportunity to rest and talk and get to the root conversations, which we haven't had an opportunity to do, I'll just be honest with you, they understand the perception of what people are seeing. They want people to understand that they were using tools they were provided to perform a job they were asked to do. I would say that would be the gist of the opportunities I've had to talk to them. They understand the hurt, but they also need you to understand they were using what they were trained to do, knew how to do, and that's what we got to look at, and we got to fix it if we feel like it's wrong.
Good evening, Chief.
Absolutely.
Where are the officers now? And what is their status
At this
now?
moment, I don't know where they are at this moment, but are they still employed? Absolutely, yes, sir.
Why are they not here?
Because this was, as I said when I came, if you all want to take a pound of flesh, I think that pound of flesh should come from me.
And I understand that, Chief. That's
Yes, sir.
that's your responsibility. But as I live here,
Absolutely.
I've been here for many years. I look around here, I don't see any torches or pitchforks.
Absolutely,
They should be
sir.
here facing the music.
Understood, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to ask this question. The way America is right now with all the white terrorism going on and Donald Trump and everything, how could your officers think that it would be any way appropriate to have this man walking between the two horses? Like, it took me back like 400 years. And I really can't stand it. I mean, they should have better sense, I think. You know, because that's the ugliest sight to see. And it's just terrible. And they should have a little more snap up here. But with all the confusion and rhetoric going on, it's not excusable. They should be suspended or fired or dismissed or something. If that ain't this, they need to go. They need to go.
I absolutely understand your sentiment. And my original plan, to be honest with you, was to have a panel of experts up here. And I realize that for every expert I find that say, yeah, we teach this, you two that say, no, we don't. So is it going to heal, right? Is it going to heal by having two that say we do and two that say we don't? Because trust me, I made the phone calls before I made a statement, and they are both out. I get it, and I hear you. I do.
Good afternoon. I think about how quickly things change. Galveston was in the news this week, because of the beautiful blue water. And now we're in the news because of an incident that has happened. We should be discussing how to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely.
My literal question is there a playbook, a manual that literally says, and you use the term best practices, and it's not unless it's written down, how to put it into practice, the rationale for it, all of those kinds of things go with best practices. Are those statements in a book somewhere that says it's okay to put the rope on them and walk them down the street? And secondly, I heard you say somewhere else that if it doesn't work, it'll go. My question was, has it been there all along? And how many acts happened like this that were not caught on tape?
To answer your second question, I don't know how many people have been transported in this fashion because I'll tell you, 28 years later, coming from a big city with a big mounted unit, I honestly have never said, how do mounted officers transport prisoners? Until this picture occurred. I've never asked the question myself. Never fathomed to ask the question myself. So what I can tell you is that yes, there are lesson plans and material out there. Is there a Galveston Police Department document? No. Are there material out there that says this is a proper method? Yes, I can assure you. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, ma'am.
You know, Chief, my mother always taught me, don't go backwards, go forward.
Absolutely.
That took us, I wasn't back then, but that took a lot of people way back.
Understood.
And it hurt my heart.
Yes, ma'am.
It really, really hurt my heart because I don't like stuff like that.
Yes,
Never
ma'am.
have. And I am born and raised in Alabama.
Yes, ma'am.
And I couldn't stand it when I was there, and I don't like it now.
Yes, ma'am.
So is this going to happen again?
No, ma'am.
And
Not under my watch.
You said you wondered how they were going to transport. Don't they have a radio? Call a police car
Yes, ma'am.
to transfer. Stop right there in your tracks. Call the police car. Hey, and all is well.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chief. How you doing today? You
Yes,
doing all right
sir.
today?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Listen, I think it didn't have to just be a black man. It could have been anybody. That would have been wrong to do it anyway, but because it was an African American, it's more sensitive at this time. And you used the word misstep, misconduct. I believe it was some misstep, and definitely I believe it was misconduct. I believe it was abuse of power just because they had technical reasons or techniques that they could use. I don't believe it should have been used at that particular time. There are many techniques we can use for a lot of things, but as police officers, as was told to me by one of your supervisors, that just because you can do something, you have to do it. I was a victim of being stopped on my bicycle just riding in my neighborhood. Just riding my bicycle. 2 officers stopped in the middle, turned on the sirens, made a U-turn in the middle of the street, endangered others' lives, and came to me as if I robbed a bank.
Yes, sir.
And I had to explain to them, man, I'm 69 years old, riding my bike in Galveston. Can we just stop this? If it wasn't for one of the other officers who know me, he came and said, listen, this is Pastor Thomas, da-da-da-da-da-da, and everything, it went away. But I believe that these officers abused their power. And my question is, before they did that, did they call their superiors? If they did call their superior, did he agree on the technique that they was going to use at that time? And how long have these officers been on the force? You can answer those. That's it.
One of them's been on approximately 4 years, one of them approximately 2 years. I'll find out for you, sir.
Good evening, Chief.
Yes, sir.
As a longtime resident of Galveston and has been here, saw quite a few things go on. I've seen the ups and the downs, but the police department has been known to be pretty good in Galveston. Matter of fact, I can go back to Willie Whitburn and that bunch way back then. Look in your archives. My question is, first, that was somebody's child that they were leading to the slaughter to be slaughtered. Now, my question to you is this something that's going to happen continuously, or was this a one-time deal?
Again, we have stopped the practice immediately and will be looking for more appropriate methods. I tell you, these officers love you. They love this island. They work hard for you every single day. Their job is to serve with excellence, and that's what they strive to do. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, ask your question, ma'am.
Well, Chief, I was born on this island and I spent 3 decades doing criminal justice, and I've been a prosecutor, I've been a defense attorney, and I've been a judge. Back when I was a young prosecutor, we did have man on patrol. I think they worked the beach mainly. I never remember anybody being transported like that. But my question to you is, and I don't know how to ask this without violating the man's privacy, which to some degree has been violated, but it's been reported in the media and it's in social media, and it just has to be said. You're dealing with a guy who has some mental health issues, okay? And that has to come into play too, and that can't have been unknown to the officers who they were dealing with when the facts are just what they are. So I have concerns that it works best for everyone, but I have more concerns about when we're dealing with a mentally ill person being taken to jail that way.
Yes, ma'am. How do you want to do it? It's on you.
At this time, I'm going to ask you, please, again, one person speak at a time. And at this time, we're going to have Melissa Morrison and Benjamin Crump will speak on behalf of the family.
And that's their attorney, so I think they won't hear.
I'm Attorney Ben Crumpin with Attorney Melissa Morris. We proudly stand with the family of Donald Neely, his sister, and his brother, and his children, all present here, Chief. And we come to simply say that image has went viral all over, not just Galveston, Texas, but all over America. And people are really passionate because we're here in 2019, not 1819, and that image it projects back. And so on behalf of his family, I'll only say what Dr. King said when we think about this, because it really is one of those watershed moments in America. Dr. King said the coward asked the question, is it safe? He said expediency asked the question, is it politically correct? He said vanity asked the question, is it popular? But then conscience asked the question, is it right? And Dr. King concluded there comes a time that you can't worry about being popular nor politically correct, not even safe. But there comes a time one must take a position because their conscience tells them it's the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do to stand up for Donna Neely, to fight for Donna Neely, to speak for Donna Neely, because he can't speak for himself. Those officers took advantage of a mentally ill black man, and it was evident. And so the only question that I have before I give the mic to Attorney Morris is, do you all have the courage to do what is right and not condone this in any way, but condemn it, not just by words, but with actions, because the whole world is watching. The whole world is watching.
I know it's not lost on you, like it's not lost on me, that here in Galveston, Texas, where 100 years ago, they landed on these shores to tell us we were free, that here it's condoned and it's okay for them to employ a tactic that drudges up the pain of slavery. So I want to know what we're going to do here to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And the thing is that it's probably not going to happen again the way that it's never happened in my career, in my recent history, in my memory, because they wouldn't have arrested my brother like that, because no person who did not have a diminished capacity would have allowed them to do this, okay? Mr. Neely's not here right now. Mr. Neely's not here right now because he is not offended, okay? Because he's a nice guy. And of course, he is diminished in his capacity because he's been off his medicine for 4 years. So that's the reason we've never seen it before. That's the reason that it's not the policy, it's the judgment of an officer or officers who don't understand the racial insensitivity of such a tactic. Judgment of officers who couldn't wait 5 minutes for a transport when they know Mr. Neely. Now, the way that the citizens of Galveston County have showed up today, they've been showing up for Mr. Neely, giving him food, giving him clothes, putting a jacket on him or a coat on him when it's cold. The way that they're sitting in here today asking you to do something, they've been showing up. What are you going to do? Show up. These rookie officers who use this judgment on the next person that they try to do it on, who bucks because it's absolutely abhorrent, that the next person, what if they decide they're going to shoot them?
We like to thank the spokesman for the Neely family for coming out tonight and speaking to the audience. Thank you so much.
Family, again, sorry we had to meet under these circumstances. Thank you for coming out here. Obviously, these are your attorneys, and there's not a lot I can say as we look at litigation now, obviously, and so I'm sorry. I understood, ma'am, understood, but thank you for coming out. I'm sorry we had to meet under these circumstances. I can't wait to sit at the table and talk to you all one-on-one. We will set a meeting, ma'am. We will set a meeting. So we will get together, we will talk one-on-one as an organization, to you as the family, not in this form, okay? All right.
Okay.
First of all, I would hope that we all come together. I don't want this to be a bashing session, but we need to solve the problem. But I was very embarrassed that y'all released a statement that the guys, the officers, did not have malicious intent. You don't have to be an officer. Me as a person, if I was a part of the animal cruelty, and y'all excuse me, I'm upset, y'all would have my head had I carried a dog like that. You understand?
I hear you, ma'am.
And this is not geared towards you. And I've seen some wonderful officers. They've come to my aid. But what I'm saying, why would you let two idiots spoil it for Galveston County? They thought it was funny. I think perhaps because they were caught on camera. This is where all this is coming from. But how many times have people had to endure this that was not caught on camera? courageous person that put it on camera. But I pray and I plead to you, don't tell us something thinking we're idiots, that it was not malicious intent.
What you guys gonna do is the real question. We can stop all the legalese and technicalities. What are you gonna do? Because the whole world is watching. Literally, the whole world is watching Galveston, Texas, because that image. Images are so powerful that you don't even need to say anything. They're subliminal. And when you saw that image, it took you back 200 years to 1819, when you used to have a thing called the Fugitive Slave Act, and they would come and they would capture black human beings and take them down the street with chains and ropes like they were animals. And that's the image that was conjured up when you see Donald Neely coming down that street. There's no other way to say it. It took you back to the Fugitive Slave Act. And everybody, I think somebody said, Attorney Morris in the film, they thought they would see the movie.
You know what I'm saying? It don't make no sense. Because you said you don't know where they at. You cheat, you should know where they at all the time. If you cheat, you should find them.
Well, I got on the police force in 2019. I mean, the police, part of their job is to arrest people. And if the horses arresting people, it was bad. It was real bad. They couldn't be on bikes and motorcycles. They could walk. There's many ways to get around. Wild horses. It looks like slave catchers.
I stand seven. Again, they're not patrol. They have a valuable tool as far as visibility. There's a lot.
Because we treated a mass murderer better than we treated this black man who was having a mental illness crisis. And so what does that say about law enforcement? It says, quite frankly, you can deny the civil rights and human rights to people of color even when they haven't committed any kind of violent crime, but when white men commit violent crimes, we still give them every consideration, every benefit of the doubt, every constitutional right, but yet black people seem to never be able to get that. So those are the larger issues at play here. Right. And that's why Attorney Morris and I and Ms. Baird, we're saying, hold on, if you say they made an innocent mistake, well, why didn't they give that same consideration to Donald Neely?
So this was a policy in the police chief's department. Do you think the police chief needs to step down?
I think the police chief need to take action, and everybody need to be held accountable. Yes. If from the top to the bottom, those officers all the way up to the top, it's about accountability. Absolutely. Donald Neely is a citizen of this county, and like every other citizen, he demands and should get equal consideration and equal protection of the law.
I wonder what happened after the moment where he was not in broad daylight in front of public to see. The concern for me is that if you would issue or if you would employ a tactic in broad daylight that everybody is revolted at, then what did you do when you got them alone? When the cameras are not watching, when the world's not watching? We want to know what happened before and after this vile picture. We want to know what happened in those 20 hours. We want to know if they took any evidence from his body without his consent. We want to know what they're doing, what they were doing to him. We want complete transparency.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened.
And it really is deep, because you think of Pamela Turner in Baytown, Texas. She was suffering a mental crisis, and the police are firing at her and killed her. And we got to be careful. If we let them not be held accountable, what happens to the next black person who they confront? Will they be killed? That's a real legitimate question for our community.
Right. We also need to question the arresting tactics for someone who's mentally ill and has issues, and really be sensitive with that.
Well, the legislature has already addressed it, but we know that they didn't employ it.
That's why we got to get in the legislature. Amen.
And that they hear about it right now.
Family has trying to get them better.
I love our officers, but the inhumanity of this image is the thing that's causing us concern that nobody's addressing. I don't want to have thank you.
And do we have to ensure, again, that comes on the administration, do we have to ensure our policies are humane? Absolutely. That's my job, is to ensure that I have humane policies in place, checks and balances in place. And I will ensure that we have more than one set of eyes and ears on these things as we listen and work through a variety of policies, not this one, because if I focus on just this policy, then something else happens in another policy, because I didn't anticipate that. And so that's what this is about. This is about learning from the film tape.
Excuse me, Galveston, and I respect all the elders that paved the way for Galveston, but you know what? You have one of these officers right in front of us had abused me, broke my ribs while I was handcuffed in the old Galveston County Jail, standing right before it, but I ain't gonna, because it's old news. But guess what? These still the same people that's representing us in Galveston to serve and protect. There ain't no serve and protect. It's just what they want to do once you get locked up. You know what? I mean, once I'm locked up, what can I do? You know, it's never gonna change. And he's looking right at me right now.
Oh, sir, I'm not permitted.
Chief, I am not from here. I've only been here 4.5 years. I'm sorry. I've been here 4.5 years.
Please, one person at a time.
And I've seen some things go on with police officers that I was really kind of like disappointed. And when I saw that, it really brought tears to my eyes. I have boys, and I wouldn't allow them to be dragged on the street by 2 white police officers with the rope, and they're on horses. Look like they got joy out of that. The question that I'm asking, and it have not been asked, and I know it's been asked before, what are you going to do to these officers? Myself, I feel like they should be fired, because no one should be on the force allowed to do that to any human being. Black, red, blue, yellow, brown, it does not matter. They should not be allowed to do that. And I feel like they should be fired. Everybody, make sure you register to vote so you can put your vote in and say what you have to say.
Good evening, Chief. I want to say that I'm very embarrassed for Galveston. I love my city. But one of the things when I was growing up, we had neighborhood policing. We knew all the police, Milton James, Rubio, they walked the beat, and they knew the citizens of Galveston. The 2 officers, do they live in Galveston? Are they from Galveston? Do they have a home here?
I'll get that answer for you, ma'am.
Okay. I just need to know, because they should have some ownership for the citizens to love the citizens here, and that was uncalled for. It really was. So something really needs to be done. That's unacceptable.
Good evening. I stand as a citizen of Galveston. I've been here all my life, and I've never been to a meeting like this, but the image, and I said I wasn't going to get involved, but the image disturbed me, even me. You have 2 supposedly trained officers get off of their high horse to cuff a man, put a rope on him, get back on their high horse, and walk this man down the center of the street where someone could see him. Where were they going to take this man, and why did he have to be placed on display? I have 3 grandsons I love very much that I've got to train and bring them up into a society to respect the badge. And I'm going to teach my grandboys to respect the badge. But where does the badge respect the people who pay their salary?
I can assure you, if I didn't have respect for you, I wouldn't be standing here. I promise you, if I didn't respect you, I wouldn't be standing here. I understand. Understood. Understood. Yes, ma'am. Who's next?
Good evening, everyone. I want to first applaud Chief Hale for being here, because I'm not sure if with everyone that's in here right now, if the mayor or the city manager has arrived. City council is here, but is the mayor or the city manager? The mayor or the city manager is not here. So Chief Hale has come here to stand before his people and before the crowd that's here on his own. So we have to give a little credit, my people. Like he already stated, it is very tough for him to be in this position. When we welcomed him to Galveston under 2 years ago, this room wasn't this crowded. But it's so good to see so many people here today. But like the young man said here in the middle, that it took something to happen in order for people to show up. Typically, we're always reactive versus being proactive. I've been a part of Juneteenth here in Galveston since let me go further than that. Since Reverend James B. Thomas, some of us called him affectionately Uncle James. And he would probably be in the streets right now to come and speak on behalf of the people. A lot of you remember Uncle James. However, we need need to show up more than just when something happens. A lot of us are BOIs, a lot of us are Baldwin Gals, a lot of us, I'm so Galveston, but I don't remember seeing on any of these faces here when it comes time for Juneteenth. So it's great that something like this has happened to bring us together. Hopefully it does not be something that we just turn back around and go back to sleep once it's happened, because this is a very, very small community. Very small community, so it doesn't take a lot for all of us to come together. We're sitting right now in history. But if we don't stand up together before something else happens, yes, they bring in people that are not from Galveston. Police officers pass by my mom's house all the time and don't speak. We'll be outside, don't speak. So together as a people, and those that want to join with us that do not look like us, we welcome you. We need to come together. We need the forces to wrap our arms around each other. But Chief Hale, I applaud you. You come here by yourself. We need to give him credit for that. And then at the same time, June 19th comes again next year, 2020. Please, 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 come on, come out. Be a member of Old Central. It's $35. We can start there together. And the question that I have, okay, and I'm handing you the mic, is about mental illness. Did they have mental illness training? That's what my mother wanted to ask.
To add to Sister Allen, we have monthly NAACP meetings right here at Old Central.
While she's
second
walking, I'll
Thursday
tell
of each month. Thank you.
While she's walking, I can tell you that one, I'm BOI now too. I bought on the island. And I love this island. And I don't want to do anything to hurt this island. I can assure you that one of advanced mental health training, and then the other one I'd have to check to see how much exactly. But yes, they have had mental health training.
I want you to take your time and answer the young lady that asked the question earlier. What's happening tomorrow, the next day? What's going to happen to these young men after this meeting? What's next? Do they go back to work? Do they do desk jobs? What do they do next? Are they just a normal police officers or what? What happens?
They will continue to do their jobs while we review this entire process. Yes, they will do their jobs. So, again.
Excuse me. We need to teach each other with dignity and respect. So if someone is speaking, even if you don't agree, please be silent.
Again, the failure of the policy is on me. And I can't be on desk duty because I got to get it fixed. And at the end of the day, we have to review not only the incident. See, there's two things here that we're looking at. We're looking at the incident, and we're looking at the entire circumstances that lead up and surround the incident, like some of you have alluded to it here today. And we review all of that in order to make effective policy. That's the intent. But yes.
Hello,
Yes,
Chief. I'm Rosalind Jackson, the Community Outreach of Galveston County. When I got this call, I was kind of upset. It wasn't just one call. I got about 40, 60 calls on my phone call. And they said, Rosalind, did you go look at your Facebook? I said, no, because I'm Facebook queen. Everybody know me. I will put you out there. So I said, no, what's going on? They say a man is walking the street. I'm going to go fast because I know I only got a minute. I'm going to abide by the law. And I say, no, what's going on? But this make our community look bad, Chief. And this happened about 15 years ago. I was over Cedar Terrace in Galveston. A young man got beat up because he ran from the laws. After he was on the ground, they beat him up again. So I called the chief and the mayor. The next day, they was fired. I don't know what's going on. I know you got to go through proper calls, but these people don't need to be on the force right now because these people need to be laid off until you investigate your problem with them. That's just because it's just not Galveston looking at this on Facebook. It's all nationwide. So I know you're a good chief, and I know you'll do better. Thank you.
This young man been waiting for a while.
Thank you, Police Chief Hale. I'm Hank Theory, and yes, I'm recording on Facebook Live. I have a very specific question for you. The first still picture shows Mr. Neely right around the intersection of 23rd and Church. The second still photograph seems to show him right around the intersection of 21st and Market. Can you state to some degree of certainty where was he handcuffed, and more specifically, how many blocks actually was he drawn on those horses in terms of through the city? Did he go down Post Office, past Maud and Hey Mikey's? Did he pass Rudy and Paco's? How did they transport him, and for the most part, who saw him, and what was the circumstance related to how many blocks he actually had to make that journey?
Honestly, I don't know the specific route, but I will certainly get it. And what I can tell you is he was transported from 23rd and Church to 21st and Market. That I know. Did I go out there and count the blocks yet? Absolutely not on me. He was arrested at 23rd and Church and went to 21st and Market to where their unit was. I can't hear you. But that was where he went.
Chief Hill, during...
Where we at?
Again, I'm going to ask that if someone is speaking, please be quiet so we can all hear. Thank you.
Oh, up here. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It happens a lot. During a town hall that was held in 2017 between the NAACP, LULAC, and Galveston Police Department, you were asked a question about policy, and which has come up a lot, and also the importance of things being done preventatively has come up a lot as well. During that town hall, I'd asked you if some of the GPD's policy was available to the public. You said there are parts that are and parts that aren't. My question is, because I understand that that a lot of this is a lot for one person, are there any steps in place, or are there any plans in place to make more of that policy that is available, that is publicly available, more accessible, whether that's through Galveston's website or anything like that, so that the community can have a preemptive opportunity to give feedback regarding some of the policies that affect Galveston as a community, instead of it being after a disaster leads to us being outraged and attention being drawn to it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. And there are two types of policy in policing. One, you have our policy manual. Some call it rules and regulations. Some call it general orders, things of that sort. And then there are standard operating procedures. And so a lot of that depends on which we're talking about. But should we be making more of our policies available to you and easily accessible? Absolutely. Not only do I commit to trying to make sure that happens, whether it be meetings with IT and all those folks, we'll make sure it happens. We're in the middle of publishing new ones as we speak. And now we're going to expedite that some more too. But also I commit to you that although they're about to be published, I will come up with a process to have some type of input from the community on policies going forward. I don't know what that looks like, and I'll be looking to you all, my stakeholders, to come up with a process that works for all of us. Where's the mic? Oh, yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to make 2 points. First, quick story from our personal experience. One day, I was coming home, had my entire family, wife and 2 children with me. We drove up to our house. There was a gentleman at our front door putting something in the mailbox. I immediately, before I got out of the car, had my wife call 911. I went up to ask the gentleman why he was there. A young gentleman, probably in his early 20s. Long story short, he obviously had a mental disability or illness of some sort, because he told me that he was putting a literal blood sample in our mailbox because he thought our house was a post office and he wanted to mail it to his grandmother in France. So, again, obvious mental illness there. While my wife was on the phone, I made sure that she told the 911 dispatcher that this was a mental illness situation. while she was on the phone. I appreciate all of our police officers. I will tell you, when the first 2 police officers arrived on site, they hopped out of the car, scared everyone, and had I not been there to de-escalate that situation, I shudder to think what would have happened to that young man, knowing that he had a mental incapacity, knowing that anything could have occurred. And I asked one of the officers afterwards, what were you told by dispatch? The officer told me they were told that it was a home invasion. So number one, there was a huge lack of communication that occurred. But again, number two, had I not personally been there to advocate for someone that I did not know, who was not there by his own fault, but by the fault of his illness, again, I shudder to think what would have happened. So with that, again, just 2 points. One on communication of what happens prior to an incident, and one on planning of what happens once a notification is given on that incident, particularly in the case of mental illness.
Now, I came here to talk about, y'all gonna make me get on my mental health soapbox, huh? Y'all can look back at footage of me all the way back to last year. I've been talking about mental illness probably since, at least not the day I stepped on this island, since the week I stepped on this island. Yes, we have a mental health issue on the island, and I've been working with stakeholders all over this island and off of this island who will tell you they've come here, they had a conference here, and I spoke at that conference. And this is my position on mental illness on the island. Yes, it's a problem. And yes, the police have to be a part of that solution to the problem. However, as you've heard me say before, and I'm sure my attorney back there gonna get mad, being mentally ill is not illegal. And we are not, being mentally ill is not illegal. We are a law enforcement agency. We are not the proper tool to be the lead in the mental illness game. Although we know we're gonna have to be there for safety, we know we're gonna have to be a partner in the education, the housing, the transport, all those things, we have to be a partner. But this is an issue that needs to be with mental health professionals leading, whether that means us partnering, whether that means they're being in our dispatch, whether that means we have some kind of video conferencing app so that officers can talk to a counselor. I don't know what the best solution is, which is why I begged on and off this island to help me come to those solutions. But yes, I recognize that we have to get into this and try to address mental illness from a greater capacity than a police officer. No matter how much mental health training, I always hear they need more mental health training, they need more mental health training. I can send 168 guys to go get psychiatric degrees. Are there any bad psychiatrists out there? That don't mean they're gonna be good at it. Just because I send them doesn't mean they're gonna be good at it. No matter how much training we provide, no matter how many degrees they get, that doesn't mean they're gonna be good at it. We need the people to be good at it to take the lead and tell us how we can assist. Because yes, it can become a sensitive, dangerous game. And I don't want someone to be injured because they're mentally ill and because I couldn't handle it properly. But yes, you bring up an important point, and yes, it's a problem we have to attack on this island.
Yes, I'm in total agreement with everyone. Thank you for coming and facing the people today. But I want to know one thing. People are asking you questions that you don't have an answer to. So I want to know, why don't you all just release the camcorder and let the people see what happened? Just let them see. You know, we fought nationwide to get camcorders on you all, and then when it's time to show them, we can't see them. Because they got to go through y'all hands first before it's shown to us. So that's why it's all the skepticism. Just show the camcorder, show what happened that day.
I understand. And as you saw, so it's not as simple as that, and promise you, wish I could come put it on this projector right now and we all watch it together. But as you know, the attorneys just left. And so I have to make sure I get proper counsel before we do something like that. I have to make sure that we protect the entire integrity of the process. And the only way to do that is to make sure I get the proper legal advice. I'm not saying we won't, I'm not saying we will, but I'm saying I wish I could, and I wish I could this moment. But I have to make sure we do it right. Absolutely, at some point the camera will show. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can't hear you, sir. Absolutely, I can't tell you when at this point in time. Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
If you've spoken once, please give others an opportunity.
Hey, Chief. I just want you to know that the buck stopped with you, and you know that, right?
Yes, sir.
When the buck stopped with you, control hold in your hand. I compliment her like she say, the mayor, city manager, they didn't show up with you today. City manager, you should be up there with him, addressing questions with him, because you his boss. You over him. So y'all got him up there throwing him under the bus, and he trying his best. But like like I said, the buck stopped with you.
Yes, sir.
And you've seen enough, right? It should have hit to your core because you black too. Should have hit to your soul because you black too.
Yes, sir.
And it shouldn't have been nothing else that you needed to see for them officers to be off the force, to let the other officers know that you mean business. They brought you down here to clean it up because they had a culture. I sued the city for discrimination, the last chief, because he was a racist. But I was glad when they said we had a black chief down here, and I thought you was gonna clean it up and get it right. And that's what we looking for you to do, man. Either you with us or you against us, man. There ain't no straddling the fence. You with us or against. You say you waiting to see more facts, and I ain't gonna rush you to no conclusions. We just holding you up there right where you supposed to be. Once you see what you supposed to be, which we seen what we need to see. So we just asking you do what you supposed to do.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Chief Hale, for this meeting. My name is Tammy Gary, and I am a federal law enforcement officer, and I've been in law enforcement for almost 30 years. And what I saw on Facebook, it took me back to the movie Django, and it took me back to slavery days. I was appalled. I, too, have had my run-in with Galveston Police Department, and I'm not going to talk about it, but after they found out that I was a law enforcement officer, the police officer apologized for putting his hands on me, and we went through internal affairs. Chief, you have your work to do. Now, don't get me wrong. Police officers have a job to do, and we are supposed to respect them. But you also have to respect us as citizens, because nobody asked you to take that job and put that badge on, just like nobody asked me to take my federal job as a law enforcement officer. And sometimes, if it's not in policy, as far as myself, I have to follow common sense and ask myself, how would I want to be treated?
Good evening, everyone. You know, as we gather here today, you know, we can't blame the chief for what's going on. The chief has protocol and procedures that he has to go through to resolve the situation. Just like you said, you wanted to see the body cam video. You have to wait on steps of letting him get through that process so we as the people can see it. What happened was wrong. they had policies and procedures that the officers on the mounted patrol had to use, which is okay. But as the chief is here today, he's coming to us as the people to come up with new ideas and resources to bring in better protocols on how the arrest was handled. Once again, you don't know if it was 10, 20 officers on that shift. You know, this is a big city, so you can't blame the officers for everything. It's just about steps and protocols of what's going on. It's that simple. Thank you.
Chief Hill?
Yes, ma'am.
Here.
Oh, over here.
I appreciate all your addressing policies and procedures, but in every job, every person who has a job, there's the potential to be situations that aren't addressed by the rules or that go beyond the rules, or that the rules or the law itself creates an unjust and wrong situation. And my question for you is, beyond evaluating the training that these officers have completed, what sort of evaluation do you have of your officers to assess their maturity and fitness to hold the position they're given?
I'm not sure at what point in the process you're talking about. I mean,
I'm talking about all the way through. Is there some mechanism that your officers, some sort of evaluation that the officers undergo beyond just checking a box that they've attended a training, that they're being assessed, this keeps cutting in now, that they're being assessed for their fitness, their maturity level, their ability to use common sense and humanity? It doesn't take a policy to look at that picture and see that it's wrong. It takes just basic human decency.
officers go through a full background, psychological exam, drug testing, and all those things prior to being hired. They're evaluated every single day on decisions they make, whether that be in the court of public opinion as we are here today, or whether that be with their supervisors. So yes, there's a constant evaluation of what we do, and I'm not understanding what.
And I'm sorry, thank you for allowing me a follow-up. How can you look at that situation and these particular officers and see that there should be no repercussions for them?
And again, ma'am, you're looking at a still photo. You have to look at the totality of the situation, which you don't have at this time.
No.
So I
A
understand,
still
ma'am.
photo tells enough of the
Understood.
story to be appalling.
I understand, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Chief Hale.
Good evening.
Good to see you again. It's unfortunate under these circumstances.
Absolutely.
Number one is, I had the pleasure to meet Chief Hale when he first came because he had a cops and clergy breakfast and people were coming out and we welcomed him. And I remember looking him in the eye and saying, you got some work to do, are you aware? And I remember you said you were aware. So you've had 2 years. I was telling people back here he hasn't been on a year, but wow, it's been 2 years, almost been 2 years. And one of the things we were talking about here is the ability to assess your group, because what we have known over the course of the past history is their behavior hasn't been able to be assessed by anyone who's been a professional enough or aware enough to be able to take care of it. It always keeps being swept under the rug. They keep making excuses. Right now you're dealing with a great deal of mistrust from the public because we were hoping that our police officers and serving, and unfortunately they're more in harassing and detention. And so she asked a great question. This is your time to be looking at, yes, policy, procedure, process, and analysis. And right now what I'm saying to you, my question as we follow up on her is, how are you planning to proceed? Are you going to look at having another citizens group?
have the Police Citizens Academy, but generally what they do is teach you about what the police have to deal with. And recently, I haven't seen that there's any kind of police citizen coalition that's active that talks about what we have to go through until we have to come to this. And this is not where we want to discuss this with you. We want to be preemptive and proactive. We want, of course, all our leaders there and everything. And that seems to be sorely missing as a part of accountability for the community action. And we had hoped to have that, and you did have a liaison officer, but right now it's not happening. So we have to make the fact. And I did want to address the other question to you with what regard to, just a moment, Mary, with what regards was to your question about mental illness and you being on the soapbox. And we want to thank you, of course, for holding up mental illness. Let's talk about the facts. Facts are that yes, police officers are now, that's a part of it. So telling me that you're not professionals and whatever, that's what's happened. Since Reagan closed the doors to the mental health places and let everybody out, and with our veterans coming home without enough things, this is your reality. So telling me that this professional, no, this is your reality, so we need to figure it out. Because before there was supposed to be a protocol in place for when you dealt with mental health and when you did call and let the dispatcher know that something was going on. You must see at this point that there's obviously some areas that you need to take a look at with regards to dispatch, with regards to understanding what the dispatch was, and with regard to follow-up. Because even though he was drugged down the street, whatever, now where is he? Is he released? Is he this? Did we make did we call a social worker? I mean, we still have a lot of things going on. I suggest a committee, a citizens committee.
Received.
Chief Hale.
Yes,
I have a problem. It's unbelievable in seeing this picture. But can you set the stage for us why he was restrained the way he was and wherever he went? Because those are the questions my relatives are asking from out of state. I haven't seen this. I've been here all my life. Since set the stage for me with the explanation. Why was he restrained and carried that way? They could have restrained him, put him on the curb, and waited for a patrol car. But you didn't have to take him between the horses. Now that's what I want to do. What knowledge do you have to give me satisfaction?
Again, I said when I walked in here, I don't think there's any knowledge that's going to give you the satisfaction.
Well, what did the policeman do?
Again, I could have had a panel of experts up here. Were they trained to use that transport method from a mount? Yes. Could we have done things better? Absolutely. Could we have waited on a unit? Yes. That's what this whole issue is about. But they used the training they were provided.
Hello, Chief Hale.
Yes.
We had a meeting last year, I think, Ms. Patrick, with the last police chief. I forgot his name. No, not Peretta. The
Chief
other one
Boyle?
after him. Yes, and I told him the problem here is the officers are real young. They need training. Train, train, train. Don't be scared of us, because all you have to do this whole conversation, we're going to speak. One instance, I go to Chevron to get my gas. If anybody be down Broadway at Chevron, wrong by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, nothing but police officers in there. We cannot go pay for our gas. They all huddle by the microwave oven, talking, laughing, and people, I guess they scared to ask them to move and stuff. It's just ridiculous. They younger. I think they need to be more older than 21 because they look like they're 18 years old. They pass by the house, the children outside playing. They don't speak. But they have this lady cop pass by the house. She speak to the kids and wave. But the officers, they are younger. They need to be, they need training. Like you said, the 2 officers that took him down, one was being on the force 2 years, the other one 4 years. It don't, training. You got to train them. And if it was me, I would have put them on top of the horse and I would have walked. You know, come on, common sense, come on. They could have waited. It's sad, it's bad, because I have family in California is calling me and stuff. It's just too much. I just think they need training. We just have to train them and get, when they in the area of the homes, get out and meet the neighbors.
Y'all hear that, GPD?
Get out and meet the neighbors. They don't. I know Officer Chambers, because his wife was my granddaughter teacher. I forgot his name. He was our escort officer. And I know the Simpson. I know a couple of them that know us. But they just need training. And then like the older officers, they need to be a mentor. Maybe you could get a mentor, the young officers. Because they do look old, young. And they scared. I know they scared. Because they look like little babies themselves. But let's train them, and maybe we could get the veteran officer to be a mentor for them. Thank you, Chief Hale.
And
I love you.
Thank you. I'll tell you all.
Okay.
We're about to wrap it up.
Okay. Yes, we were going to take 3 more questions. If you have additional questions, you're free to stay and talk with Chief Hale or any of the members. But we are going to entertain 3 more questions.
Okay. So, in order to address your training issue, I'll tell you, as you heard me say earlier, the state mandate is 40 hours every 2 years. I've already instructed of continuing education, 40 hours every 2 years. I've already instructed my training staff to take that to 56 hours. Even though the state only wants 40, my intent is to get these officers a minimum of 56 hours of core training, which includes those things we talked about: crisis intervention, mental health, diversity, all those types of things, every single cycle. So that is the intent.
All right, hello. I just want to say that, number one, Chief Hill, it's been his purpose and intention since he had made chief of police to go in the community, to serve in the community. That's where the information comes from, the community. We have been meeting with the officers, all these officers here tonight, including the chief. I want Brown, Dr. Allen, would you stand up? Other clergies. I want to show the community that we are hearing, that we are doing, we are talking to them, we are going in between so we could come together as one unit, as one unit. So, with that said, I know that Chief Hill is taking a lot of heat now, but we are taking a lot of heat because we want to represent the community. We want to represent the community. At my church, what we have been doing for almost 20 years, inviting the police department to come to our church, let our people talk to the police officers and tell them what happened to them, what transpired with them. This is what we've been doing, and we're going to continue to do that. And they could tell you, if something go wrong, we be the first one down there at the police station. So I just wanted you to know that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Something tells me my next church visit, I won't get to just sit and listen to the choir. I'm probably going to have to take some more heat.
Okay, only 2 more questions at this point.
Chief Hale, at first I wasn't going to say anything, but Chief Hale and I have had to have some conversations before, and I've got to say it. He's respectful. He'll hear you out, even when you disagree with him, even when you're angry with him. He will hear us out, but there's only so much that he as an individual can do in this moment. So I applaud you for taking the time to hear us out, for stepping forward even when others probably would have told you no. I too have a brother who have some challenges. The photo scared me. That could have been my brother. One of the most docile men you'll ever meet on this island. that could have been my brother, because he would have complied, and it would have ripped me to shreds. And then I'd have to be back on the phone with Chief Hale again. But the reality is this: the job of a police officer requires snap decisions in some very heated situations. From what I've read thus far, it wasn't a life or death situation. There was time to call for a cruiser. We're not at Mardi Gras, where those tactics have been deployed. Cruisers could have gotten through to this gentleman. I've seen people sitting on the sidewalks plenty of times, being detained, waiting for backup. That could have been deployed. I understand there are protocols that were in place coming about because this was a new uni where all the decisions had not been made on the protocols. But for me, that is not an acceptable excuse. That to me is the difference between misstep and misconduct. In the absence of it, your judgment has to be what is important. And this is an utter lack of judgment. For someone who is being charged with carrying a gun and the right to discharge it must seek to operate with humanity at all times.
Understood.
Chief Hill, you the chief of the police department, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, do your job then.
Yes, sir.
They need to be held accountable for what they did. I'm here because I'm angry. I'm here because everybody out here is angry. Change need to come, and it need to come right now. It's been like...
All right now, don't be disrespectful, sir.
Racism is alive back then and is alive right now. I'm hurting right now because got a lot of police officers out there treat people like crap. Got elected officials getting paid millions of dollars and ain't even doing their job. Enough is enough. You need to do your job.
Okay. Last question, folks.
Chief, I know that you are in leadership position just like I am. I'm the proud pastor of Greater Mount Gilead Missionary Baptist Church here in Galveston. 15 years might not be long enough, but I've been pastoring 15 years. And in those 15 years, Chief, as leadership, I had to make some tough decisions. Some decisions that would have had hurted somebody or either helped somebody. Yes. I have an old pastor friend of mine, been pastoring over 61 years. He's told me, he say, whatever is in the well, gonna come out in the bucket. I'm saying this here. I have a deacon that says, a pair of lips will say anything. And so what I want to say to you, Chief, let's use this scenario. Just say you are my doctor. I come to you and you tell me I got cancer. I'm in the first stage. And those officers are the cancer. And you say, only way that you're going to be all right is if I get it out of you. I say, well, go on, doctor, and get it out of me. But if you don't get it out of me, what I'm going to do? I'm going to die, right? All I'm saying, Chief, is, listen, we are making wrong right. And listen, if we are not going to be held accountable, God's going to hold all of us accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Again, I know there are many other questions, but we have been at this since 6:30. So at this time, I'm going to ask Reverend Tim Allen to please come dismiss us with prayer. If you have additional questions or concern, Chief Hale will be here to talk with you after.
Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for being patient and listening. Thank you, and I love you.
And I will tell you, tonight, it doesn't stop tonight. I can assure you that there will be more meetings with Chief Hale and his department to make sure that we are bridging that gap in this community. We will do better.
Amen. Thank you, President Patrick. Thank you, Galveston community, for coming and addressing your concerns. And I certainly want to thank Chief Hale for having the courage to quickly come and address or let us address our concerns. So I applaud you, sir.